Thank you, everyone, for tuning in to the Sound of Sirens podcast. I'm one half of your host, Larry Frederick, and this is an important announcement. This podcast contains explicit material that isn't recommended for young audiences, such as language and depictions of graphic nature, so listener discretion is going to be advised. Keep in mind that the views and opinions of this podcast are that of the host and do not reflect the views of the guests, affiliates, or sponsors of the show in any way, shape, or form. Also, please remember that the individuals mentioned on this show, regardless of involvement, are to be considered innocent until proven guilty in court. Thank you for tuning in. Now let's start the show. Let's see if I remember how to do this. Welcome back, everybody, to the Sound of Sirens podcast. I'm one half of your host, Larry Frederick.
And I'm Brian Miller.
And man, it has been one hell of a month, if we're going to be completely honest here. We've been gone for a little while. As we put on our Facebook and other social media outlets, I was going through some family issues. That family issue was my grandmother unfortunately passing away, to which, funerals had to be attended, and there was some things going on with the family afterwards that required a lot of my attention. Also, just little miscellaneous things going around with work, and picked up a second job, and it's been chaotic for me. So first, I want to start off on my end just for saying thank you to everyone who's stuck it out this long, waiting for us to come back on our brief little hiatus, and understanding that, life happens. Definitely have some things in the works for you all, and I hope that we can continue to bring you the content that you've all grown accustomed to getting and enjoying. We want to see those numbers continue to go up and not fall. I know taking hiatuses like that don't favor that in the best way, but I think that our fans have been and will be loyal enough to stick it out and understand the things that we're going through as we try to now pursue answers for some other families that are going through a rough time and have been going through rough times. With that being said...
Is that the live thing we're going to do?
Yeah.
Okay.
With that being said, Brian, you got anything you want to say for the last month?
Just that. I mean, I'm very appreciative and thankful of all the people that we've had that have supported us and been fans and listeners, and a lot of them have made contact, whether seeing me in person or through Facebook or a text message, asking when we were coming back, and were very understanding to the not just you and your family affairs. I had some things going on, and but we was able to get through that and come back. So we here. It's gonna go back to being a weekly thing as we can, and
barring any outside interruption once again. But
I don't think we've lost anything except the month time.
Yeah.
But I think we'll pick back up where we left off. Whether it's doing a true crime case or any other type event that we will discuss.
Right.
Just looking forward to it. I've been missing coming over here and having your dog bark at me and jump up on my chest. I've missed the Navy jets flying over. The only thing that I wish that we could find, since we're at the Sound of Siren Studios way back of Barataria, is that Bigfoot would at least come through, because then we could have a talk with him, because he's out there somewhere.
I got a really hairy friend that could come and impersonate, but that's about the best I could do for you on that one.
No, looking forward to it, and I am thankful for everybody, and I know you went there today, and I went the other day, but LeBron's has still been very supportive of us.
Absolutely.
And always there for us when we ask, and I know I went to their... Chef Myron and Chef Shorty or Carol were able to actually complete their payments on it, and they own it outright themselves, the building, everything, which is...
And give them a round of applause. Good round of applause.
Which is a great thing, because they are two outstanding people. Carol has got a heart. Myron's got a heart. And there is love in every bite of their food. It's delicious. They had a little ribbon cutting ceremony, and the buffet style that they put out for the friends and such that they invited over was just outstanding.
Well, I'll tell you, my son had the kids' chicken tenders because he's basic, but I had me a nice little bacon cheeseburger with some fries, and I gotta say that was one of the best burgers I've ever put in my mouth.
They do some good cooking, and like I said, you know, I'm happy for them too because they not only doing the Shark Tank way is the brick and how they say that the building they had the building brick and mortar. Thank you. I couldn't think of the other word. The brick and mortar business of the restaurant, but they also now have a food trailer, and they've been going out to one of the chemical plants or facilities in Belle Chase that they've arranged, and it's a weekly thing.
They're going somewhere else next week.
Yeah, they travel a lot with the trailer, which is awesome, and it's really helped them out as far as their business, which I
bet.
You know, I hope they keep going at it, but we definitely still want the brick and mortar restaurant because it does make it easier for us to be able to go to it because I don't know that I could travel everywhere that the trailer goes.
Right, and I will say, if you have not, since we started this show over a year ago, if you have not been to LeBron's yet, you are missing out. All our local listeners, LeBron's Creole Cuisine, look them up. They have social media. We've advertised on here before. Go pay them a visit. Get you some of that love in every bite. I promise you will not be disappointed. For tonight, we are not going to be doing a true crime podcast tonight because of our hiatus. And I will explain. I know we were right in the beginning of the Jessica Easterly Durning case. And we do still support the family. We still do want to bring open eyes, fresh minds to the case. However, after speaking with her sister recently, I say recently, it was right before we went on hiatus, she said that there were some things that she was trying to work out, I guess with a different affiliation company, and that she was hitting some brick walls, but everything that could have possibly been said that isn't going to be repetitive or seem like we're stealing their ideas or anything like that, which, I mean, I'm sure wouldn't be a problem just getting the case information out there, but the Undetermined podcast displayed and said everything that they can legally say to this point. And on our last show, I did challenge our listeners to go over to the Undetermined podcast, listen to I think it's a 10-part series, listen to it, gather the information, form your own opinions, and try to spread a little bit more awareness to that case. So I'm gonna challenge you all to do that again. Go over to the Undetermined podcast, give it a listen. Please, if you know anything, reach out to Crime Stoppers of the Greater New Orleans. Let them know what you know, if you know anything. I mean, this family's a really good family. After talking to Jessica's sister for some time, I really have a newfound appreciation for family, just seeing how deeply rooted they were. So go and give that a listen. This isn't the end of us reporting on it. This is just us saying that we don't want to seem like we're interfering or imitating with another podcast.
Just the mere mention of the case, I do feel that we are helping in regards to keeping the word out there. And I
myself, I'm going to keep looking into it. I'm going to keep trying to gather information. I will still be in touch with her sister, and any new information that comes out regarding the case, we will bring to y'all, I promise you. As far as our first case,
the Necrantel.
Yeah.
We want to keep that in the forefront, too. I mean, there's still a lot going on. And
they still contact us via social media. They're still very prevalent in the case. In fact, I don't believe we've had the opportunity to say the new development within that case that has come shortly after we aired our podcast, or our 2 podcast episodes on it. Brian, if you want to enlighten the people as to exactly what happened within that case.
The most I know is the DA's office has, from what I've gathered through talking to different people that are involved or that have been contacted, the DA's office has opened it and is looking into it again. And,
So the case has officially been reopened.
Hopefully so. And I have not talked to the sister Kim and Randy, Kim's husband, recently, but I plan on reaching out to them and just seeing how things are going. But again, like we said with the Jessica case, the mere mention of the Nanette Quintel case, we want to keep that in the public's ears and eyes.
Absolutely.
And keep it going so it's a forefront thing, and that justice comes to the family and justice is served upon whoever killed this lady.
Absolutely.
Whomever it is.
And with that, a gentleman that we initially wanted to get on the show, he was I believe an FBI agent.
He was an agent assigned over there, yeah.
His name is Jerry Rogers.
Yes.
He was removed from the case,
He was
I believe
arrested.
charged, right?
Yeah.
For basically giving information and all kind of BS.
Right.
All of his charges was dropped. He has been acquitted of everything.
In fact, there's a Facebook page called The Truth About Sheriff Randy Smith, and they discuss a lot of the Jerry Rogers case and also post like the evidence from it, the findings by the judges, so on and so forth.
So I know at least one of us have been in contact.
Oh yeah.
With that side of things, and would like to see him on the podcast in the very near future, so we can
we'll
get some
Jerry
added information from an inside source that has nothing to hide. I'm not saying that the family did,
Right.
I'm just saying,
Right.
he can come out and tell his side of the story because he was
involved
very
on the law
prevalent.
enforcement side, yes.
So we look forward to that.
Before we go on to other case things, we brought up LeBron's, but I definitely don't want to forget Jamie and Russell. And I know through whatever reasons they had to, their brick and mortar business, as far as the Forever Fit Nutrition, they had to close the brick and mortar part. But I think she's still doing.
She is. In fact, I contacted her recently, and she is basically operating off of a Facebook page. It's titled Where Ya At Nutrition.
That's what
it's a Y with a apostrophe A.
I know she's doing the nutrition, but she's also doing what else?
She still does the nutrition side of it.
Right.
It's just not as prevalent as what it was. She's also picked up bartending once a week.
But doesn't she do crafts and T-shirts?
She does. She does crafts and T-shirts. I'm not sure if she belongs to a company or a group, or she's just doing it on the side.
I just don't want to forget her because she hasn't forgot us. She's
absolutely
stayed
not.
Friends and
Jamie Lombos Lloyd. You can look her up on Facebook. Like I said, Where Ya At Nutrition. If you live around this area, you still want your teas from Forever Fit Nutrition, she could take care of you.
Right.
Your shakes, whatever it is that you need, she could hook you up and turn you in the right direction.
And of course, our T-shirt.
So Crafty is still representing us as our merchandising sponsor. We just haven't had time to really do much, and she's in the process of actually opening up a snowball stand here on the West Bank.
So we're gonna go to So Snowballs.
No, I think it's Cold Kiss Snowballs. And yeah, I mean, we do thank her for her continued support of the show too. She does do quite a bit of advertising for us, and we definitely appreciate it.
And we're gonna get back to looking for more sponsors and things.
Before we move on to our little filler show, like I said, tonight is kind of going off of the last style of the show. We're just gonna improvise and do a little filler here. We do have 2 cases that we are looking into currently. Let me get to my notes here. I'm sorry. One is going to be a Miss Kylie Hartman out of Shreveport, who went missing after leaving a local bar and has not been heard from since. Another one is out of Mobile, Alabama, and that involves a Daniela Vion. And I and I'm not going to go into specifics because I'm not guaranteeing we're going to do those cases. Those are the two most prevalent ones that we're going with. I'm trying to actively reach out to family members to, one, get their blessing to talk about the case because I don't want to reopen old wounds unnecessarily. Right. Two, I want to gather a little bit more fact from an inside source before I go off of what the internet says because despite what people may think, the internet is not always right.
What?
Yeah, you know, Wikipedia is not a reliable source. Man. So, after all that, since our hiatus started, we had let's call it a debate with some incumbent council members
Hopefully
and representatives. Hopefully, this is going to
be part of the when we go live discussion.
Yeah, we're gonna touch back on it.
Touch base on this. Okay. I've never stopped going to council meetings,
right,
and paying attention to things that are going on. And I just you said debate, so we'll talk about that. I am from Kenner, East Bank of Jefferson Parish, born and raised there.
Right.
In fact, still live there. But I've worked over here during my time way back when I was with the Sheriff's Office, during my time when I got in the fire service here in the West Bank in the 7th District. And then having very close friends and family members that live over here in the West Bank, I try to pay attention to the things that are going on. And I just, going to the council meetings, I felt like we weren't being thought of over here. Because, and I say we, even though I live in Kenner, and I'm from Jefferson Parish.
Right.
And I've always said, here sitting talking with you, and when I go to places, a man in Marrero is as important as a man in Metairie. And a family in Wagaman is just as important as a family in, Kenner, and so on and so forth. So I went to a debate in River Ridge, that the president of the River Ridge Civic Association, Miss Nancy, was at one time one of my lieutenants when I was at the Sheriff's Office, and I love Nancy to death. I went to it, and I seen how she did it, and she asked some questions, and just some of the things that were said that night, it opened my eyes to, well, they really have no idea what goes on the West Bank. They're not addressing, one of the topics was EMS service, and she said, here, I don't know what happens on the West Bank. I think it's different. But over here, we are having a problem where the ambulances are far out or delayed or they're short, and our fire department has to respond. And I'm sitting there wanting to scream out, that's exactly what's happening on the West Bank.
Right.
And then, so I sat down with one of the fire chiefs, and we was talking, and I said, man, I just feel like we should have a candidate debate because I've talked to a couple of the council people and or their aides, and was like, well, where are the debates on the West Bank? And they were like, well, there's not a whole bunch. There's, as of right now, we got one scheduled in Gretna, one scheduled. And I'm like, okay, Gretna, Terrytown. The West Bank is bigger than Gretna and Terrytown.
Right.
There is actually a West Bank that goes from the Harvey Canal to the St. Charles Parish line. That's all part of the West Bank, too.
Right, to which I will say, a lot of the people who showed up for this debate were very appreciative that for once they had a voice. So, for once they can listen and understand and know what exactly is going on because they're never included.
And there was some discussion about that. I mean, and we've had the shows in the past, but continued discussion about things with the fire service on the West Bank and how it's different from that on the East Bank and so on and so forth.
Yeah, I got to read
So in talking to the chief that I was talking with, he's like, man, I just wish we had a group of West Bank firefighters. And I'm like, we do. He said, yeah, but, you remember the old days, there was the Jefferson Parish Firefighters Association. That was kind of a West Bank group. And I'm like, yeah, I understand what you're saying. We do. Because I agreed with him. He's like, they're more willing to come out if you have a group rather than just one person saying, hey,
most of them.
So I was like, yeah, I hear what you're saying. So I was like, but we do have a group of firefighters on the West Bank. He said, really? Who is it? I said, it's called the West Bank Firefighters Group, which I just made up while I was sitting there with him. I was like, it's not a union. It's just, I said, and if we need, I'll go out and ask a bunch of guys if they would come, which you was there.
I did, but
So
I was there on behalf of the podcast.
You was, but what I'm saying,
but I spoke.
Not only did you speak, but you was there, and you are a West Bank firefighter. Mm-hmm. So not in our words, did you see other firefighters from around the West Bank there?
I did.
Okay, so that worked. Mm-hmm. But in it, I said we also need to reach out to the civics groups from the area. Avondale has a civics group. Wagaman has three civics groups or two civics groups.
And both had representation.
Kennedy Heights, 9 Mile, so on and so forth. So I started posting it on Facebook. I made flyers and gave them out to different people from each section. The word got out. I was nervous. I was like, man, you put something like this together, you hope you get a good crowd, but you could get 5 or you could get 105. You just never know till that night. But we had civics groups members from Avondale, Wagaman, and 9 Mile that actually sent us in questions. We did have about, I'm going to tell you, it was definitely 60, but we were maybe a little north of that.
We probably pushed capacity in that hall.
And it was good turnout. And
very much so.
I wish my bad, and that I let it get a little out of hand, but
not really. I'll say this in a sense of saying it got out of hand. About halfway through, one of the citizens from the area had a remark. She said it was a question. Turned out to be a statement, and a very long-winded statement, just going off on one of the incumbents, and it shouldn't have become that. It should have been cut off. But I feel like a lot of what she was saying had merit to it.
Right.
But again, you want to kind of put a stop to that because once one talks, they all
right. You want decorum, and you want the candidates to answer.
At one point,
you had.
One of the new running candidates went against the incumbent and got a little heated with one of his.
Right. And when we go live, I'm going to have a little bit more to say about that.
The reason we could talk about it now is because I don't want people to not see the live and then not hear it. So whatever we say now, we could say again on the live.
But the only thing that I would add here and during the live is, and when I say, maybe I described it wrong by saying it got out of hand. You try to keep a moderator.
Stick to a script.
A moderator handles it.
Right.
And I tried to explain in the beginning, listen, we have a set of questions that we've already got in and that, we went through. But if you have questions you'd like to ask the candidates, they will be here a little after. You can pull them on the side and talk to them.
Right.
And I should have kept to that. I messed up by allowing the lady to say it because then it just kind of opened a floodgate. And then also there was a councilman there that is a current councilman who is not, he doesn't have an opponent, so he doesn't have to campaign. And he asked if he could respond to an individual that was up on the podium, and I let him. And then that created stuff. I shouldn't have done that.
That's what sparked me.
Right.
And I'll say I apologize for letting it go the way it did, but the amount of representation from the exact firefighter group that you wanted there, and they had, I counted 1, 2, 3, maybe 5 chiefs from the area.
Right.
Handful of firemen. One that was pretty much a president of a union or whatever the hell he was, and is currently battling a particular department of 7th District. No one said anything.
Right.
No one was going to say anything, and it pissed me off. So I had to open my mouth, and I had to let it be known, and I'll go into it.
Yeah, we'll go into it. But I think what you did and what you said was spot on. But I want to, what else led to the breaking of the decorum was, and I didn't say this, but to a few people, and I think we talked about it right afterwards.
Mm-hmm.
Not counting what I call the challengers, and that was the gentleman Frankie Hires, who is one of the 5 at-large candidates.
Has been on our podcast previous.
Reginald Jasmine, who is a candidate for the state representative of this district running against Kyle Green, and Tim Kerner Jr., who is the current mayor of Lafitte, but he's running as a challenger for the Senate seat against Pat Connick
Right.
for this area. I tried to stay neutral. I did not want to show that I'm for this one or for that. I want to hear honestly about all of them, or from all of them. But there was 3 incumbent candidates that kept pressuring me. How long are we going to be here? How long are these questions? What, you need to hurry up. You need to speed up. And
They were telling you that?
yes,
I didn't hear that.
Yes. In fact, one of the times where I was up towards the front addressing the audience, it was said again, and my girlfriend looked at the candidate and said, "This is important to the citizens. If you didn't feel it was important, or you don't feel it's important, maybe you shouldn't have come here." And then he realized that,
That wasn't the gentleman sitting on the very end, was it?
Correct, it was.
The one that I almost cursed out.
Right.
So, yeah.
So there was that. Then there was, I had some candidates reach out to me early saying that this is how they wanted it done. You here to speak to the citizens, to speak to them. I will say, and I am going to repeat it during the live, I will say this. Even the ones that I may like or may get my vote, of all the incumbents, the current senator, representative, and the current council, not counting the 3 challengers that were there, or 4, because I will say 4 challengers, because Mr. Shepard showed up, but the incumbent councilman that he's running against did not. Matter of fact, he didn't even answer any of the 7 emails and messages I sent, nor he didn't
It's
answer.
funny because I asked why he wasn't there at this last Civic Association meeting out there in Wagaman, and his answer was because he didn't want to have a fight with Derek. So he just was avoiding being in the same place at the same time with Derek. There's a bunch of...
Did we allow any fisticuffs to occur?
I thought at one point there might be, but no, we didn't.
We and I don't think anybody there that was part of being first responders would have allowed that.
Yeah, I think if anything, a lot of what the issues and when it started to really elevate to a point where we was like, hold on,
right,
was not egged on, but started by an incumbent.
Right. And what I was going to say is, of all the incumbents that got up there, not one of them impressed me with their answers that they were really concerned about.
It was a lot of
that area. Me, yeah,
I did,
yes,
me, we. There was no we. It was an I. You had Impostado, who, speaking in third person, aggravates the shit out of me. And he did it the whole time. Dominic Impostado's group did this, and Dominic did this, and this, and come on, man. Bonanno, you said, unopposed. He's the incumbent that is not being challenged, so he gets his seat back regardless. In my opinion, he started the most shit.
I will say
out of the whole thing. Him not even being involved started the most shit.
I will say this, now that you brought up that name. In all the things that we've done in regards to like the fire service, or that I've done, and you've been supportive of it, but I will say I'm usually the one that initiates it. You just like, yeah, go ahead.
I got nothing to lose now.
There's a retired chief from the East Bank that lives on the West Bank, lives in the 7th District. In fact, he was at the council meeting, because the day of the debate was the night was the debate, during the day was the council meeting. He was actually at the council meeting earlier that day.
Okay.
His name is Dennis. And I can honestly say, in the things that were told to me by people, I was kind of against Dennis. I was thinking he was like trying to be, I guess, argumentative on behalf of the department. But I got to say, and I am going to say it again live, so hopefully he sees it and hears it. He had very legitimate questions and concerns at the council meeting. And it was more about, what's the plan? Just tell me what we're going to do. I mean, what's the safety end of this? And he was honest about it. And at the debate, he was the same way. And I've had to kind of step back and say, hey, you know what? I prejudged this dude without actually talking to him by listening to others. And I think he's got legitimate legitimate.
I think politically,
things.
the reason that he hasn't advanced to the height that he expected to is because he's making it. When you try to gain a political affiliation or you try to gain a position within, council or whatever the case. I think he ran for justice of the peace last election. The issue is he's still trying to be a fire chief. He's still trying to be a firefighter, which isn't a bad thing. I'm not saying that it's terrible. He's not looking at the broad spectrum of
and
anything.
That's your opinion. I'm not here to argue that with you.
I'm just looking at that based upon his pamphlet that he handed out that goes over his his firefighter career, and he did this for the fire service and he did that for the fire service.
I didn't know he handed out a pamphlet.
Well, he did it at the Civic Association meeting. I'm sorry, it wasn't at the debate. It's just different things that I've known and seen. He has to deviate from just I did this for the fire service and make it about what he's going to do for the people, because the people.
Okay, I didn't know he.
It's a little bit different.
What civic meeting was
the
that?
Wagaman one.
How long ago was that?
Right after the debate.
Okay, well I didn't know.
But he had done it the last election. Like I said, he ran for justice of the peace against Mark Spears.
I don't know. I didn't know that, and I didn't know that he was trying to run. But I was just going to say,
he's a good guy, though.
I can't argue the fact that he did have very legitimate questions and concerns in regards to. The difference in the East Bank and the West Bank and what's going on with 9 Mile Station and so on and so forth, which we're going to have. I have some comments about that and
sure.
a sign. But you say about his, maybe we'll use the term political aspirations.
Okay.
That maybe he does want to run, and that's why he's doing what he's doing. There's fire chiefs that are doing the same thing. They're aligning themselves with a machine because the machine is promising them that they'll get to keep their position.
Yeah.
But they're not out there actually fighting for the team, the guys, the girls, if there's women on some of these departments. The boots on the street in the field. Mm-hmm. And so, I mean, we could say that too.
Well, that drags me to why I said something at the debate. One of the incumbents, Ricky Template, he said something that really offended me as a fireman in the comment that was made. And again, we're going to say all of this on live because we're going to cut off the recording when we go live. This is the recorded session for people who can't catch the live or just want to go back and listen to it, because we have to make a show out of it.
Right.
So Ricky Template actually said that, and go ahead and tell the people what position is he as far as in the council?
He is
the representative of district.
He's not a Ricky Template. He's a councilman at large.
Okay.
And he's in what they call council at large seat A. There's seat A and seat B. A is the West Bank. B is the East Bank.
Okay. So he passed a comment that in the event he wins his seat back, he wants to keep all paid administration, chiefs, high-ups of all of these major corporations, fire departments, businesses, all that stuff. And then he, in the same token, turned around and said how badly we needed consolidation. And it sparked something in me because, one, we're basically consolidated already. It's just not the way that they want it to happen. We're rated as a district.
Correct.
We have district funds.
Correct.
When somebody misuses those funds, it hurts the district balance. And if somebody messes up on a rating, it hurts the district rating. So basically, without us being classified as one department, we're still rated as one. We're basically consolidated already. And we're doing this and having these issues, 9 Mile closing the station for more than half of the year. You got their bankruptcy issues. You have other things going on within the district that is being investigated. You have all these things going on, and yet that it fell under this current administration. These chiefs, these administration, these boards of directors, these people. And he wants to keep them there throughout these mistakes, knowing that they've been bailing them out the whole time. And that it struck a nerve in me. Well, why would you want to keep a chief who purchased a ladder truck against the advice of the rest of the district, spent almost $1 million on it, screwed up their balance to the point where they went bankrupt, they can no longer afford to pay their guys, and then you have to close a station down. You want to keep him as a chief. That just don't bode well with me. And then you got people who have been audited that have screwed up. You have another department that was under a bad set of eyes and radar for a while. That I will say, we're friends with the chief there. He has turned that place around tenfold in the last few years. Just why would you? I think if anything, the way that he should have said it is you need to reevaluate every single one of these people and see why they deserve to keep their position. Not just inherit the position because you're a career politician and you know that you still want to be in that seat and represent whoever you want to represent, not necessarily everybody. You want that for everybody else that's already got the position. That didn't bode well with me. Another thing was Dino Bonanno decided to say that the reason firemen are quitting and leaving the entire service is because there's a lack of retirement. No, sir. No, sir. The reason that firemen are leaving, and we're not just leaving one department to go to another and we're leaving the service altogether, is because I can't afford a fucking roof over my head. It's all good. Your insurance is great. We've said this on the show before we changed the format and, started getting in trouble and shit. Oh. The reason we're leaving is because we don't make shit. I have to pick up a second job. It's not because I want to. It's because I have to. Because I have 2 kids and a wife who I have to support. And what good is 100% paid insurance for me if, I can go to the doctor when I'm sick, but when I'm done there, I got to drive my vehicle, hopefully that I still have, back to underneath the bridge so I have a place to stay.
Right.
I can't afford anything. Cost of living goes up every year, and my wage don't.
Well, it's funny you say that because that's one of the things that we brought up, and like they got a raise, the councilman got a raise,
absolutely,
but they not even given all the money that the people voted on for fire protection, and
which was brought up
again. We're just gonna say this about the 7th because that's where in the 7th. When they collect the millage, by resolution, by law, ordinance, whatever, 15% has to go into what they call a fund balance. They're not even given, after the 15% taken off, they're not giving all of that, the rest of the money to the fire departments to operate. I'm not saying that maybe 9 Mile wouldn't have overspent things. They probably could have even overspent this extra money, but how do we know that? We'll never know.
Even with that, the argument there, where are they getting the money to forward them to keep them from shutting down?
Because they're taking what...
They're not paying 1 month. The next month, they're giving them the money to pay for the month prior that they didn't pay, and it's so on and so forth. Where's that money coming from?
It's the monthly allotment.
So you're allowing them to get behind to catch them up by default? It's fucking stupid.
But listen, the part where he said that, and this is why I tell people you need to listen or go to the council meetings. He is part of a group that has paid the Buson Creative company to represent them as a consultant. That whole group that's with Buson has said at council meetings, wages is not why we can't hire people. It's not about money. I don't know what they're talking about, because I think everybody, regardless of if you work for a government or you work for a coffee shop, you're going to work because it's about getting $1.
Right. So see what happens when I don't get that $1.
Right.
Where do you think I'm going to
go? That's the argument. Plus, this whole time, whether it's him as the councilman, which, remember, the contracts with the fire departments are signed with the council, not with the parish president.
Right.
But whether it's him or the director of fire services office, not necessarily the individual fire director, but that office, they just keep kicking the can down the street.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, the station's closed. That's all right. We're going to cover it. They doing this. We're going to cover it. No. Quit kicking the can. Pick it up. Either fill it up or totally throw it away. But quit kicking it.
And that's why I brought up what I did about
issue
Herbert
we're
Wallace.
Talking about, listen, this didn't happen on September the 13th,
no.
2023 at the debate. we've been talking and discussing this for more than a year about the problems over there. And their sole answer continues to be, he said it to me more than once at the council meeting. Well, that's why we're looking into consolidation. You have to fix what's broke now.
Right. Brother, fuck a consolidation. Stop putting Band-Aids on stuff.
Right. The consolidation
we don't need at this point, we need fucking quick clot.
Right.
we need something to happen now.
Leak.
We need something now. This is not a long-term fix. This is it. We need something immediate to happen. And by doing that, listen, we're not retaining people. Despite what people may think, like you said, we're leaving, but it's not for the reason he thinks.
Right.
You figure cost of living has gone up over 10% in the last 2 years, easily. We get a 2% annual cost of living raise that doesn't keep up. You know, so people are, okay, it used to be starting out at minimum wage was acceptable because shit didn't cost that much. Now, dude, you tell me I'm all right, yeah, we're going to start you out, minimum wage is $8.50, we're going to go ahead and pay you $8.50 an hour. I'm turning around and walking out. No one's coming to risk their life for $8.50 an hour.
Right.
It's not happening. Then they wanted to talk about volunteers. Well, you know, we don't have any. You want to know why? Because volunteers ain't about to just, oh, well, yeah, when I get off of work, I'm going to go do 6 months of training and, you know, dedicate myself to this and, you know, whatever training I do at one fire department. A lot of people used to belong to multiple fire departments. Well, now they're figuring out that if I do training with XYZ department, I got to do that same exact training in-house, the company training, at the other departments.
Right.
Same amount of hours because they don't transfer over. So people are not doing it anymore. They're not belonging to multiple departments unless they work for multiple departments, which, by the way, this consolidation they keep pushing for, you're not going to be able to do that no more. You're not going to be able to work for this department and that department at the same time.
Correct.
It's against the law.
And the pay is going to have to be there.
So you're going to want to reevaluate the system and make sure your guys are compensated here very shortly before you lose all of us. It's not just going to be one or two.
Well, the thing to think about in that is there's 3 essential parts. There's more, but 3 essential parts to the actual infrastructure of a city, town, parish. And part of that infrastructure, those 3 things are called police, fire, and EMS. It's in the charter that they have to provide this to the citizens.
Yeah.
And they are so reluctant, except for what they call the green machine, which is that Acadian ambulance service.
Well, they're private.
They have all gotten some kind of pay from them, I guess, campaign and contribution. But the EMS service for Jefferson Parish is screwed up. And it has nothing to do with the men and women that are on the ambulances. They're out there trying their damnedest.
Least bit, right.
The fire departments are losing people, not just on the West Bank, but throughout. Police, short. And it's because of this falsehood that these politicians are giving. And I'm not trying to put a scare into the public. It's not like I'm saying, hey, let's use a scare tactic.
But you need to know
it's just a truthful thing.
You have to know.
And these men and women that are heroes, that are police, fire, and EMS, paramedics, they're trying. Yeah. They're not only competing or combating the crime, the heart attacks, the fires, the car accidents. They're combating the very politicians that are supposed to be these crime fighters and helpers.
Well, how many times was that brought up? Oh, well, you know, in my career,
all you got to do is ride around.
I've been a fireman. Have you?
Have you ever seen?
Or have you just had the title on?
Have you ever seen
t-shirt?
The cameras that, like the speed cameras, the boxes that on the
that ran out of state?
Yeah, go ride past one and stop and look at the blue sign attached to the back. This sign, paid for and donated by Councilman XYZ. Okay.
So I got to thank one of them for getting tickets.
Right.
Asshole.
But that gets old too. There's more to crime fighting than just saying that, oh, wow, you know. So that's just my 2 cents on
Anybody
it.
can put a t-shirt on.
There's several of them that I still wish the fleas of 1,000 rabid camels from the Middle East would infest their ass. But that's just my thought process on it because they don't they're not true representatives.
No.
We have a. Did you ever see the movie 300?
Mm-hmm.
You know what? I'm gonna hold this analogy too, because we getting ready to go live. I know you got to set up the analogy, the stuff.
I'll segue back to something off of that real quick before we go live, and we're gonna say this again when we go live, but in reference to when we started talking about pay, and it was brought up, a river divides us, east and west, and they keep allowing it to divide us. You actually brought out something about pay, or I brought up something about pay, and then it was rebutted by some gentlemen from the East Bank. I'm assuming they're with the union or whatever they're with, that are a current East Bank fireman, that said that, because I alluded to the fact that we're hurting here, and the East Bank is kind of, they're thought to be advanced because of property. They keep saying property value and this, that, and the other. And they said, well, you need to get your facts.
Well, what happened was, I'll tell you. And the night of the debate, and to answer your question, yes, they were some of the board of directors for the union over there, which that's okay. I don't have. My thing was, and they may have gotten it off of the Facebook post that we were doing this. I don't know. But I've never seen them show up at anything else in regards to the West Bank.
Right, I had no idea what it was.
I do believe that it was encouraged for them to show up by certain councilmen who were saying that the Jefferson Parish firefighters are in support of them being the councilmen. And yes, the East Bank Union has come out with who they're supporting, but that's not necessarily all the firemen in Jefferson Parish.
Right.
But in the discussion on the debate, I said something, and I actually had the other people come and say, that's not what you said. And then we looked at the tape from somebody videoed it, Facebook Live. I said my stepson, or a kid that is like my stepson basically, is a fireman in the 7th District, has been doing it for 8 years. And to show you a difference in like the pay, he's been doing it for 8 years, and he barely makes $12 or a little over $12 an hour. But if you took somebody, and he's got a lot of certifications, if you took somebody from the East Bank, in some cases they making double that.
Yeah.
And the gentleman from back there said, that's a lie. Our starting pay is $10. But my comment wasn't about starting pay. It was about somebody that's actually got almost 9 years on. Right. And then he said, you need to get your facts straight before you say anything. And then I was still going through a lot of, I call it discombobulated with all this action that was going on anyway. And I misunderstood what he said. So I was like, man, I apologize. I wasn't trying. And I didn't. I'm not trying to offend.
I don't think anything you said was malicious.
Right. I'm in as much support of the East Bank firefighters as I am of all firefighters.
Right, and that was the point of saying the river should not divide us.
Right. But, he was right. In this sense. I wasn't talking about starting pay. I was talking about length of service pay that he's been in for so long.
Mm-hmm.
But the gentleman made the comment, you need to know your facts before you say anything. He's right. And I think I usually go and get facts before I say anything.
You are the public records guy.
And that's exactly what I did. I put in a public records request for the entire payroll for the East Bank Consolidated Fire Department, from secretary all the way up to assistant chief. I asked for it to know their position or title, their length of time on the job, and what they're getting paid. He's right. Now, I did ask for, and if they don't, I will, it's called redact. I'm going to take off the name of that person. It's not important to me who this is, that it's, using me as an example. I don't need to know that it's Brian Miller that's got this position, this time, and this pay. I just want to know the position, the pay, and the length of time to show the vast difference in pay that happens over there and happens over here. And if anything, I would love to meet at a restaurant over coffee, iced tea, whatever, with Mr. Burkett, who was the older gentleman that is the union president, and get him to. I wish he'd come and meet with the guys on the West Bank. Come sit down with a group of firefighters here. I understand he's the East Bank president. He can't necessarily be the West Bank president.
I don't need him.
But we could learn
right.
from his knowledge and experience of what it takes.
I'll tell you, and not to cut you off, but the way he reacted kind of seemed like he went there with malicious intent towards the West Bank.
Not the older guy. The gentleman that was in the yellow shirt.
Stood up and said, no, you need to know your facts, because the way he approached it almost seemed like he had that on his mind.
He may have.
Prior to going there. And
that's okay.
Because it ain't just these Chiefs. I'll tell you, I know a lot of guys on the East Bank, and they all have this thing where the river, they really think that river divides us as a parish. I've passed several accidents on the East Bank, made it known that I was a West Bank fireman, didn't tell them exactly where, and was like, do you need help? It's like, nah, bro, we got it. I've actually been asked to leave a call on the East Bank because they didn't want my help. And I'm not saying it was because I'm a West Bank fireman, but it's just different. The people look at us differently, east to west. It's just, and it's been that way for a long time. It's nothing new.
Right.
So I think that needs to be something we address. Like, we are Jefferson Parish of Louisiana. We're not Jefferson Parish East and Jefferson Parish West. We're not two different parishes. We should all be able to work together. We should all have fair compensation. We should all get along. We should all work together in solidarity. I don't think it takes a consolidation to do that.
Well, and that's what I'm saying about, like, with Mr. Burkett. He can come over here and teach. And there is, per se, a union over here. It just doesn't have But
we asked them to promote, and nothing happened.
Nobody is trying to come over here. I say nobody. I am. I keep saying it. All the firefighters over here.
We tried twice.
Need to, and if you don't want to do a union at first, at least come together to have one voice. Because guess what? Maybe the candidates, maybe you've had to go as a firefighter, you've gone to like our debate, or you've gone to a civics group debate. You know who the candidates met with last night? The Fire Chiefs Association.
Oh, just the Chiefs, huh?
So the Fire Chiefs, you would think, okay, well, what they met with them because they're going to come back to their guys and tell them what goes on. I know many guys from many different departments that say, I didn't know that. Our chief never come and said a word.
It's kind of like trainings that happen where, the guys that are working find out the day of that, there's a training on swiftwater rescue today. And we weren't invited, but Chief was. And,
that's
other
like
departments go and...
It's like getting credit for training that you never went to, at least on paper. But anyway, I'd like to go live so we can discuss some things. So
we're gonna wrap this recorded portion up, and I'll wrap it up by saying, again, thank you for tuning in, staying involved, not giving up on us on this hiatus. We are going to, our next episode, go back into the true crime genre. This is not a permanent thing. This was just a filler episode to get something out there. We've been gone for over a month, but we are eager to hear from you. So, in listening to this, I'm going to say it again when we go live, but if you or someone you know has a case that is unsolved or even solved but was really prominent, has some suspicion to it, you think they got it wrong, right, whatever the case may be, and you want us to talk about it, please, sirenspodcastofficial@gmail.com. Send us an email. We will review your case. We will get back with you, let you know why we did not select it, and we'll go from there. Same thing with sponsors. We are still looking for sponsors. I'm not one to go out and solicit, but it's about to happen. Please, that's how we continue this show. That's how we make it happen. That's how we bring you the content. We do have to pay for this, unfortunately. So if you can, $20 a month. If you can spare $20 a month from your business, your personal account, it doesn't matter what you are or who you are. If you would like recognition on the show, or even if you want to be an anonymous donor, we will take care of it. We will handle it some type of way for you. We will come up with a sponsor package, whatever you want to call it. Just email us, sirenspodcastofficial@gmail.com, and we'll talk. So, with that being said, we appreciate y'all coming through. We are going to go Facebook Live here momentarily, but thank you again. I'm Larry Frederick. This is Brian Miller.
Thank you.
We going live.